See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820. Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Oh, love that intro. What do you think of that intro?
Inspiring music.
It is very inspiring. Kind of has a military
I like it.
deal. Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelo Rocha. I'm the host of Vet for Vets, a show where we take local Johnson County veterans of all sorts, from first responders, police officers, firemen, and military veterans, and we discuss their life before, during, and after their military service. Today, I have with me a special veteran guest who is a retired firefighter of 35 years. He retired 5 years ago. His name is Joe Robinson. Joe, you want to tell everybody that are listening a little bit about yourself?
Like you said, I retired for approximately 5 years now after 35 with the city of Fort Worth. It was fantastic. I tell people when it comes to the fire service, there was and still is no other job that's better than the fire service. I'll put it up against anybody. You take out the pay, because I mean it just depends really, but as far as pay goes, because that the range on that is wide.
I know what you mean.
But you take out the pay and compare that job, the fire service, to any other job, hands down, it's the best.
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple of people ask me before my show tonight, and they asked me, wait a minute, he's a firefighter. I thought veterans are military. I was like, no. Almost every single occupation that is hazardous has a statute of when somebody gets out, they're considered a veteran of that occupation. I'm a veteran of the military.
Mm-hmm.
A police officer serves 20, 25, 30 years or 5 years. It doesn't matter if they get medically discharged. They're a veteran of the police force. You are a veteran of the fire department. You are a veteran firefighter.
Right.
And a lot of people don't, a veteran EMT,
Mm-hmm.
a veteran doctor, a veteran lawyer, occupations that could be hazardous. Like if you work in the prison systems, you're a veteran of the prison system. Okay. So I just want to let people know that. Every show, Joe, I usually talk a little bit of something that a lot of military people, a lot of police officers that I know, and a lot of firefighter friends that I know, they suffer through something called depression, PTSD, and many, many other issues, probably far worse than those two, even though those two are pretty bad on their own. Suicide is a big one.
It is.
And a lot of them think about suicide, sadly. And I don't know what other way I can say this, but if you are a veteran of the military, fire department, police department, EMT, or any other occupation that's hazardous, if you are a veteran and you're going through some shit, that means you're going through problems with depression, PTSD, or you're just mentally going through something involving a marriage or maybe some addiction or, like gambling or anything like that, and you don't know where to turn to. People like myself or Joe would be able to take your phone call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we try to help you go to the right people. We're serious about this. Yes, I'm sure I can't fix the 21, 22, 23 a day that all of these occupations are going through, but we can at least try to help you as an individual. So if you're going through some stuff, there's a phone number called 988. You dial that number. You then eventually one of those things comes on. Press 1 for English. Press 2 for Spanish. If you're speaking, blah, blah, blah. You press number 1. That's for military, first responders, and anybody that has a hazardous occupation. They'll tell. Then right away, as soon as you click 1, they take you to an actual real person, not a freaking voicemail message. And then you actually are taken to somebody that it's real, and they help you take care of whatever problem you're going through. Whatever it is that you're going through. Like me, I know I go through depression. Yes, it's undiagnosed, but I know I have it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't need a doctor to tell me I'm depressed when I know I'm depressed. Okay, I get it. I'm sure it's not to the point where I need meds for it, but I know I have it. So, but there are veterans out there who are far worse. Do you suffer from any type of PTSD or depression?
I don't think I do, but I do know several firefighters that are still on the job and some that have retired. We just lost one coworker of mine last week that I'm not going to name his name, but
oh my goodness,
but for suicide. So I'm not necessarily sure
so
if
it touches
was from PTSD or what his particular situation is, but I know that he was at one of our busier stations.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if that was part of it.
Yeah. Well, so, it's tough having a person, somebody that you're close with, maybe somebody you've had a conversation with. And it's hard when you find out that they took their own life when they never showed signs of any type of depression or suicidal tendencies. It's been a while since I've had a close friend of mine kill myself, but seemed like almost every week or at least once a month, somebody that I was close with on Facebook, their family would announce that they killed themselves, or somebody close to me in my former company that I worked for. they would always, come out on social media. Hey, oh my God, this and this person committed suicide. We're sorry. Keep our family in your prayers. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. And and a lot of times it's over something so ridiculous that they could have not done it because they could have talked to somebody about
Right.
it. But you do have a lot of men and women out there that are proudful of themselves. They have a lot of pride, so they don't want to say anything to anybody.
Yeah, most people that are in the fire service that I know are what you would call the type A personality,
Yeah, type A. Yep.
right? So, yeah, uh, we're the ones that come in and save the day kind of type people.
Yeah.
We're not the ones who want to have to ask for that help.
Yeah.
So, uh, when I first got on the job, that was very much I don't want to call it the theme or not, but it's the very the macho
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, you never say
attitude.
anything to anybody.
But they started talking about discussing major events, uh, and doing debriefs and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's much more commonplace nowadays.
Good.
So yeah, that's a good
Think
thing.
about it. Just 20 years ago, PTSD was like non-existent.
Right.
I mean, you knew people were going through some stuff, but they didn't have the word for it.
Mhm.
They just knew people were going through stuff. And I know I have PTSD, but I have controlled PTSD where I try not to think about it. I think about things that I've done or things I've gone through, and I try not to think about it. And a lot of times, 99% of the time, I don't think about it. I think of it as I did what I had to do, and I don't think about it. I've seen things that my family would never want to know about, even though I've said
I'm
it on this
sure, yeah.
radio show, but I've seen things.
Mhm.
I've done things that I regret a little bit, but at the same time, it's like I did this for my country. I did this for my country. I did this for my
Mm.
country. So, but anyway, so the reason you're here today
Mhm.
is because it's a day that nobody will ever forget.
Correct.
It's September 11th, 2023. It's the 22nd anniversary of this thing that happened, which ultimately I served for my country over. So, do you have any thoughts of why it's important to commemorate a day like today?
Well, for me, personal reasons, I know the total body count, if you want to call it that, for that day was just under 3,000.
Mhm.
But 343 is the number that firefighters particular remember because that's the number of firefighters that died that day.
That's got to be the single greatest number.
And by far, in the city of Fort Worth at that time when that happened, 343 firefighters would have been an entire shift. So that's a lot. I mean, New York Fire Department's much larger, but I mean that's just
Yeah.
a massive number. And I do remember the day when that happened.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, do you remember the day?
I back then, if you weren't working part time, you weren't a firefighter because the pay wasn't great.
Yeah, I
back
gotcha.
then. And pretty much everybody I knew worked some kind of part time job. Construction was major
Yeah.
with firefighters, so all different types of construction. For me, at that particular time, I was working at the Home Depot on the South Freeway there at Everman.
No, I
Parkway.
know exactly what that's at.
And I was working that morning, and I worked in what we call the tool corral area. And we had a TV there that we would play tapes of tool demos and things like
Yeah,
that.
stuff like that. Yeah.
And my wife, she called me that morning and said, "You got to turn the TV on in there. So you should turn the news on.
Yeah.
There's a fire in one of the towers."
Yeah.
And shortly after I turned the TV on, we saw the second tower
The
get
second
hit.
plane
Yeah.
get hit. Oh,
And for me, I knew what was happening. I'm almost immediately like, this is not a happenstance kind of. Yeah.
the same feeling came over
we
me
are
when
under
I saw that
attack.
second plane.
100%. We are under attack. And I clocked out, went home. And the rest of the day, I stood in front of my TV, almost motionless, for hours,
just watching what
was going on. Yeah. So
yeah, that
that day's
devastation.
ingrained.
Yeah, I went back. I went because that's originally where I'm from. I'm originally from New York, New Jersey, New York area. But I grew up seeing the Twin Towers pretty much on my almost from the time I was 8 all the way until I left when I was 18, just watching the Twin Towers. And then when 9/11 happened, that was a big thing. I mean, your story is different. You were working. Me, I was out in the field. I was in the military because I joined the military, and I was out in the field, woke up in the morning, had really good breakfast, even the military breakfast, if you call it good. But and I remember getting back. I remember literally I sat down in my Humvee, and all of a sudden we hear our commander on the radio. It's like, "We need everybody here at the FOB right now, forward operating base." We're like, "What the heck?" So literally, all you see is Humvees and M109 howitzers, M99H, just all these and all of these military vehicles all converging on this one area of the forward operating base. And I'm not even joking. We had a TV that was maybe like 6 inches.
Yeah, there weren't big screens then.
But this is a field TV where it's like a 6-inch by 5-inch TV, little black and white TV. And there's literally 500 people, at least 500 people watching this little TV all around in this little thing and they said that a plane ran into the Twin Tower, one of the Twin Towers. Like, oh, wow. Everybody's like, oh, my God. There's like 8,000 people each one of those buildings. Oh, my gosh. If it collapses, it's going to be crazy.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the second plane hits, and all of a sudden, all of us are looking at each other like, oh, my God, we're going to war. That's a terrorist attack. We're going to war. And, and I was like, F yeah, I'm going to go to war. I'm going to kill as many terrorists as I freaking can when I'm over there. I mean, I've never seen Americans so united.
That was at that point. I mean, like I said, when those towers fell, I knew there were firefighters in the building when it happened. And I've said this before. If it were up to me at that point, if I had, got to push the little red button, and I would have done it. I would not have hesitated.
If I was a president, if I found out who it was,
angry I was at the time.
I believe it. Well, over the 20-some years that we've been over there in the Middle East, we've had 3,000 for 9/11, countless since 9/11 with lung issues and people who've died from all the breathing issues.
There's still firefighters dying.
All the soldiers died in the military.
Different types of cancer, and lung issues and stuff.
Yeah, we had all the soldiers who died in Iraq and Afghanistan. We can say maybe couple 100,000.
Yeah.
Right. However many, we can say maybe 100,000 or so total people that have died over this 9/11 attack. We have killed millions of them in return because of what they've done. Not because, hey, we dropped anything. It's because it's just a slow progress to getting these terrorists off the, and to end them.
Right.
Of course, now that we pulled out of Afghanistan and they're just pretty much just took right over again. So after all that work,
that's shocking, right?
No, but anyway, 9/11 is it's a big. 9/11 is the moment in my life that literally changed my trajectory because I went in the military for 4 years to basically have college money to go to film school, to go be an artist. But then when 9/11 happened, my career trajectory just went woof. I had to, and I ended up getting stop lost. And I was like, well, I'm stop lost. I might as well just re-enlist. So I got re-enlisted. We did a lot of training. I went over there several times, and it's been. I would never want to go back over there because of how horrible they are over there, and it's literally lawlessness out there. They can have as many Iraqi police or Afghanistani police as they want. It's lawless out there. People were getting killed left and right over stupid menial things, and I'm going, dang, if that happened here in the United States, holy.
Yeah.
Imagine every time you went through a red light, somebody just shot you just because you went through a red light. Oh. Unbelievable. But anyway, so we're going to be talking a little bit more 9/11 later.
Okay.
But so where did you grow up?
Well, I mostly grew up here in Burleson.
Your whole life?
Almost. Moved here when I was 10.
Where'd you move from?
From Fort Worth. Oh. So not far away.
That's not a big move.
So I've, pretty much lived in this area my entire life. I just turned 60, so I've lived here in Burleson for 50 years now.
Oh my goodness. Dang.
yeah,
So
I've
you've
seen
been
a
you're
lot
you're
of
a
changes
you're
come
a
through this town.
half century of veteran of Burleson. Nice.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so how were you growing up? Were your parents strict on you? Were they easy on you? How kind
Nah,
of
my parents were pretty easy on us, me and my brother. We didn't, I mean, they had their rules and stuff, but they were pretty lenient rules for the most part.
Yeah.
So growing up, it was, and especially in this town back then in the 70s and 80s, it was a pretty good time.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So
How would you say? Are your parents? Are they with us or they're no longer
no,
on?
both of them have passed away.
Oh, so
So
you kind of do you still miss them all the time?
oh yeah, my father passed away. It's been a little over a year now. So my mother's it's been 6 or 7. I don't know,
Was it?
I'm not sure how
Because
many years.
sometimes
It's
it
been.
just happens all of a
Time
sudden, and
goes by.
sometimes you just kind of know.
Yeah.
Like you prep. So, but yeah, I think to me that's one of the things. Like my parents are getting up there in age, and that's the one thing I'm gonna dread. It's the one day when I get that phone
Yeah,
call.
for sure.
And but like I know, life goes on, and you
Oh yeah.
think about your loved ones and stuff like that. It's crazy. So you said you had a brother.
Mhm.
So is he still around?
Yeah, he still lives in Burleson also. Yeah.
Oh,
he,
cool.
yeah.
What did he end up doing?
He works for an insurance agency in the Bedford area, I believe. Is it Bedford? Gosh, I don't know. I forget what. I probably just butchered that.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
that's all right. It's no big. I'm just trying to we're trying to let the people of Burleson and Johnson County know who you are.
Right.
Because you've literally lived here for 50 years. I'm sure you've seen faces, thousands and thousands of faces. I'm quite sure there's people listening in right now who don't know who you are.
I do know that when we first moved here, Burleson was that little small quaint town that everybody knew everybody.
It's not now.
It's not anywhere close to that now.
No, you can thank your
So,
previous mayor, Ken Shetter, for that. Him passing all those population explosion rules and laws, and
he was enemy number one for me for quite a while. Yeah.
To me, I personally never had a problem with him when I lived in Burleson.
Yeah.
It's when I saw him kneeling down in front of that. They had a little get together of BLM people out
For
here
the Black
downtown.
Lives Matter
Yeah,
thing,
the BLM people. He starts like apologizing. It's like, don't apologize for me.
Right. Yeah, you don't speak for me.
Have you ever heard of the 90-10 rule?
I think so.
Yeah, where it's like every occupation, there's 90% that are good and 10% are bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like 90% of firefighters are good. The 10% are bad. Same with police officers.
Not an exception.
Yeah, military,
sure.
police, firefighters, the military, teachers, whatever it is. Then you get down to lawyers. 10% are good.
Just the opposite. Switch it.
90% are bad.
I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with you too. But anyway, so you grew up here in Burleson. You had you had a good childhood. So all of a sudden you're in high school. What kind of kid were you in high school? Were you like a jock type?
Oh no, I was too small. I mean, you look at me now and you wouldn't say what, but as when I was my freshman year in high school, I weighed 80 pounds. I was being an athlete.
I'm the same way.
I
didn't weigh anything.
I would have got killed trying to play football or anything like that. So I gravitated towards the band, and I played in the band for
what'd you play
several
in the band?
years. I played trombone. I actually was good enough to get a scholarship to TCU playing. So
wow,
I did that very shortly at TCU. didn't last a whole year there. But
wow, TCU, that's actually a pretty prestigious school there.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. So you graduate high school, right? How long after you graduate high school did you decide to be a firefighter? Like, what made you decide? I want to be a firefighter.
That's funny. My story when it comes to becoming a firefighter is way different than most, because you hear most of the guys that I've worked with over the years, it's just something that I've always wanted to be.
There's a lot of people.
There's a
lot of people that tell me they've always wanted to be a firefighter.
So that was not me. I never even
thought
gave it a thought. But my brother-in-law, he's ex-military. He retired from the Air Force.
Yeah.
He his last station was in Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin.
Gosh,
I'm probably
I used to know a
butchered
lot
that
of
too.
military bases, but I
Anyway,
don't know many.
He was moving back here, bringing his
Yeah.
family here to where, all of us, including my wife's family, all live here in Burleson. So he was moving back to the area, and he was looking for a job. And he saw that the Fort Worth Fire Department was hiring. He calls me. He goes, "Hey, you should
Join with me."
you should come try out for this too." At the time I was working for, it was still Bransom's Grocery.
Yeah.
I was their produce manager at the time. I was still 19.
Yeah.
And married, and
You were married at 19?
oh yeah.
Any kids at that time?
No, but shortly after.
Yeah, we'll talk about your kids and maybe the second half. But
yeah. So, he first said that, and I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? Because why would those guys run into burning buildings? Why would I want to do that?
So it wasn't technically your calling, but
it was not my
but
calling.
What made it your calling?
Well, he finally talked me into it. I'm like, what the heck? And my wife's grandfather retired from the city of Fort Worth Fire Department also.
Do it.
So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And just actually that I'll give it a shot turned into one of the best spur of the moment decisions
of your life,
of my whole life, for sure. Absolutely. Hands down. That changed the whole, like you're saying about 9/11, changed your trajectory. That, like, what the heck, let's go for it, changed my trajectory for sure.
I like me before I start doing my producing thing for film and TV, and where I work at currently right now, I worked for a big time railroad company. I had zero interest in working for any railroad at all. But one day I just happened to work for this guy who had locomotives to work on, and I was like, I'm actually pretty good at this. Like, I had a calling for working on locomotives, and that's kind of what I did for a lot of years, just working on locomotives and the railroad, and I loved it, and I had a calling for it. But you still have to have a moment, though. Do you remember specifically, like maybe a day or a moment or something that happened to you that you're like, man, I love this shit. This is awesome.
It wasn't until I got into our training academy,
like when you're actually putting on the gear and you're using the water hose.
I had to do one of our to get hired on. You had to do a physical agility type test, and some of that was fire related type activities. But it's like, okay, whatever. And once they started issuing us the gear,
and you're like,
hey, this is kind of cool. So yeah,
imagine that.
Right.
Like, so why'd you join the fire department? Because it's kind of cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So we have about 2 minutes left for our commercial break. Then we'll be back. In case you just started listening now, I have with me a veteran firefighter, Joe Robinson. He served in the fire department for 35 years, retired 5 years ago. And we're talking about his life before, during, and after his service. So continuing on, do you have anything that you want to say about your mom and dad? Like maybe that people want to know about you, maybe or even your brother?
Well, gosh, my mom and dad were great. They were very, very supportive of both me and my brother on all the things that we did throughout our life, especially activities.
So they always supported you, whatever you did.
Yeah, I mean, if he or I were, if it was my brother playing in a game or me doing a concert or whatever it might be, they were absolutely there, 100%. Of course, yeah. So yeah,
that's fantastic. I had parents like that. I mean, they didn't show up to a lot of events, but I always had parents who knew I was very athletic. They just were like, we know you're going to win. We know you're going to win. And they showed up to a few events. They were supportive. I love them to death. They're living in New Jersey right now. My mom right now is actually listening live as you speak. That's her there. But I just want to send a shout out to my mom on September 11th, 2023. Thank you, Mom. Love you. But anyway, so your brother, what did he think about you actually joining the fire department at the time?
I'm not really sure. He's my younger brother, almost 5 years younger. So he was still in school.
He was a late bloomer. Oh, dang.
we're somewhere between 4.5, 5 years apart, something like that. So, like I said, he was still in school when I decided to go for that. So, I don't know. I guess he maybe thought it was cool or not. I don't know.
That's pretty cool. So when we get back after this commercial break, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about maybe some of the experiences you've had. We can talk about your organization, training division, fire academy. We can talk about maybe a little bit more about 9/11. We can definitely talk about your kids. Or kids, however many you have. I didn't actually quite get how many kids you had, and maybe even talk a little bit about your loved one. You know, why she matters to you and why she's stuck with you all these years.
I still haven't figured that out.
I think none of us will ever figure that out. In case you're just tuning in, this is Angelo Rocha. This is Vet for Vets. Please return in about 2 minutes after my commercial break. Thank you so much.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Vet for Vets. I'm here with Joe Robinson, a veteran firefighter, which is different than what people here that listen to me. The millions of folks that listen to me, which I can only wish. But anyway, before we get started on the second half, I just want to mention that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneIn Joco, that's TuneInJoco.com, is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch. And also, the station app is available for free on all Apple and Android devices. Yes, free. Just simply go to your store and you can check out our lineup and more at jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more are brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Actually, technically, that's pretty cool. You can level up with Next Level Claims. That's pretty neat. Anyway, reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Also, don't forget to make sure you dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. That's THETIFFIE.com. That's Tiffany's personal website where you can get some stuff if you're thinking about getting gifts for your loved ones.
But I hope my wife didn't just hear that. It was my
TheTiffy.com. Like, why is my bank account drained? But Okay, so like I said earlier, we're here with my veteran firefighter guest, Joe Robinson. He served in as a firefighter in Burleson, right?
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Okay, so for the Fort Worth Fire Department for 35 years, he retired about 5 years ago. What made you decide to retire? Did you finally just why not just do your 20 and get out like everybody else?
Man. First of all, firefighting is a young man's job. It is 100% a young man's job.
I agree. That's why they tell you can retire after 20 years.
With the city of Fort Worth, and that goes for all of their employees, whether you're water department, fire department, whatever.
Yeah, everybody.
They have what they call an 80-point system, and they add up your age and your years of service, and when those two go up to 80, then you're eligible to retire. So I hired on when I was 20, just turned 20. So I did 30 years, and I was eligible to retire at the age of 50.
Yeah.
And so still young enough to do just a little bit more. And we had some incentives, or a pretty good incentive, what they call the drop program. But that's a long story.
So you figured out you had a couple more years.
So I stayed on in 5 more years, and yeah.
So who was the ultimate deciding factor of you saying, you know what, 35 years is enough, I'm getting the heck out of here? Was it you, or was it your wife just saying, honey, Joe, it's time for you, you're done?
No, it's I think most firemen, when you get asked that question, it's you just know.
You just had a feeling in your body. I got you.
Yeah.
It's like that movie, that TV show Yellowstone, when the cowboys just know their time to go. They go and walk underneath the tree and just sit down, and they know it's time to go.
Yeah, right.
But, okay, so we're going to talk about a little bit about your children. Okay, you hadn't told me how many children you have, but a little bit about me. I have 2 daughters. I have one natural daughter and one stepdaughter, but my stepdaughter is like my daughter because I've literally raised her since the time she was little. My oldest recently just had a child, so I became a grandfather for the first time.
Nice.
Her name is Angelo Rocha, but she goes by Dino, and she goes by, that's what she does. That's her favorite name, Dino.
Being a grandfather.
But anyway, and being a grandfather, I thought I was going to be a pain in the butt at first, but once I got to meet my grandson, he is absolutely the sweetest little thing. I mean, yeah, he hates being changed. He hates being naked, which is different than most men. But he is an absolutely sweetheart. He's an absolute sweetheart. And then my youngest daughter, Mackenzie, she's a lady that has the whole world to confront. She currently works at the McDonald's here on Wilshire. She's a fantastic little young woman. She is going to grow up to do great things. And that's a little bit about me. When it comes to my daughters, what about you? How many kids do you have?
I
and
got
what
2
are their
kids,
names?
and
I'm sure they're grown up now.
Samantha's the oldest. Yeah, she's 39. So, and then my son Daniel, who's about 4 years younger than her. And yeah, they're great. Samantha is she currently works for CareFlight.
Oh,
so she's
that's a really good
job.
So
there. She's started out as a dispatcher there with them. She's now currently a supervisor and a training supervisor there within dispatch. She's a flight dispatcher.
That's very hard to attain that job by itself.
Yeah, and so she's been with them for quite some time after bouncing around some other dispatch jobs before.
Yeah,
and my son works for Camping World there in Alvarado.
I know exactly where that's at
for some time.
The direct competitor to McLean's.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so he enjoys that quite a bit. And and then my daughter, Samantha, like I said, she has a son. His name is Hayden, and he's 15.
Let me guess, he's the greatest kid ever.
When he wants to be. Nah, he's great.
That's all I can pray for. I only pray that my grandson turns out to be like a really good kid, respectful towards others and doesn't bully anybody, shares,
Yeah, he's great. And then I have 2 daughters, granddaughters from my son.
From your son.
And Piper and Sutton are their names.
That's awesome.
And they go to school in Cleburne.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So how were your kids growing up? How did they treat you, knowing that their firefighter dad was putting his life out there, possible risk. How do they feel about that?
I'm not sure that we really actually talked about that a whole lot.
Oh, really?
It's just something that I did.
That's all they knew. It was just something that you did.
Yeah.
Thinking back, do you think now they kind of understand? You know what? My
Yeah,
dad was
I
in a
do.
really serious occupation.
Right, for sure. I know they understood that for sure, and they respected it. But we never made a big deal out of it.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? It's like I said, it was my job. That's what I did. So
So we're at the point right now where I want you to share some stories that you have, maybe some calls you were on, maybe some things you might have seen. You don't have to share things that are you know that are sad. You don't have to share things that are things that you kind of bring back PTSD. But do you have any stories you want to tell some listeners and people listening in?
oh wow. um, most thing is when you hear about the fire department or you're a firefighter, um, the vast majority of the job itself
Yeah.
was not fighting fire.
Well, it's a lot of
Very,
waiting game.
very,
It's a waiting game.
yeah, but the vast majority of our calls were medical calls. And just to go back to my first days on the job in the fire academy, I remember my first day walking in the classroom. And I had no idea. I was clueless about the fire service.
Yeah, like how it works.
100% clueless. And EMT and paramedic was new in the fire service, first responders with that. And I walk in the classroom, and on the desk there's a EMT book. And I'm
Like, what is this?
what the heck is this? I thought I signed. Am I in the right place? Because I
Yeah.
thought I signed up to be a firefighter.
Yeah, what's CPR?
Exactly. So So like I said, a good 80% of our job was answering medical calls.
Yeah, and stuff, injuries, people who have been in car
A
accidents.
lot
I
of
get it.
lot of major accidents, things like that. The last station that I retired from was in the TCU area, but we answered a short section of Interstate 20, like between let's see, from like Hewlin, and then going back east to almost 35 there.
Oh, so I'm sure
So we made
you've seen a thing
quite
or
a
two.
few accidents along there. Lot of fatalities when it comes to MVAs.
Do you find
over the
it
years.
more emotionally heartbreaking if you see little children
Oh yeah,
involved?
100%. Yeah, that was the worst part about the job itself was seeing
Children or young
children,
people and people who are young
innocent
and-
kids that
Yeah.
that had no control over the situation,
Zero.
right?
Yeah, I think
So
that to me, that's what I would think about if I was a firefighter or a police officer. What I'd run into if I show up to a car accident, a little child,
Mhm.
being deceased, not because of anything else other than just the neck being, snapping and
Right.
killing the baby.
Yeah,
So
a lot of teenagers
Hmm.
in those type of situations, because they're when you're a teenager, you're bulletproof, right?
yeah,
Or you
that's
think you
what they
are.
all think.
And yeah,
I think teenagers right now, they're the worst at texting and driving. Yeah, we
Mhm.
have a lot of adults out there, don't get me wrong, that
Mhm.
text and drive, but teenagers specifically, they think they can speed, they think they can drive like lunatics, and they think they can text and drive.
Mhm.
And they're the first ones that always end up as a statistic because of that. They're trying to be cool, showing off to their friends, going down the road without their seatbelt, and next thing you know, they're having a firefighter like you, actually having the jaws of life, getting
Right.
them out of their car.
Mhm.
And it's like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, but if there's one thing you can tell a teenager right now that's possibly listening, if he was listening right now or she was listening right now, how important is it that they should never have to see your face inside of a car?
Yeah. So good example. Like I said, my grandson, he's 15, so he's starting to learn how to drive.
Yeah, the right way.
And I'll
hopefully.
take him out driving around every once in a while. And You know, they're either wanting to be on their phone or their music is
Oh yeah,
huge for
where
them,
they
right?
can't hear anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so something we were driving along and he's driving and something happened to the radio. I don't remember what it was or for why it happened or whatever,
Yeah.
but he starts messing with the radio, completely forgets that he's driving.
Driving.
And I'm like, oh, stop.
What are you doing? Yeah.
Hold up here. You got to pay attention. You know, if that started, you know, and I'm lecturing him going, you know, you're behind the wheel. Your number one job is to pay attention to the road. Something happens to your music or whatever. That's inconsequential. You know, you stop somewhere else and fix it. Then you don't. So anyway, he's learning.
Well, hopefully these kids straighten up. I know that has a law where you can't even have the phone on you if you're a teenager, but I see them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I live right behind the Burleson High School, and I see kids getting a football game. All you have to do is just a police officer. All he has to do is stay right there at the corner and just watches as the traffic goes by one after another. They'll see these teenagers on their car
Yeah.
If you really want to get some really good kids to learn their lesson, is finding the crap out of their parents or finding the crap out of them for driving with their dang cell phone in their hand. When they have Bluetooth capabilities and they have, you know,
right.
It's, I don't know. It's crazy. And it's sad when you hear all these situations where these young kids are getting killed.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so we were talking about you, we're talking about your kids. You had a little moment. What are some happy moments that you remember being as a firefighter? Like the esprit de corps among your firefighter friends?
You being around the fire hall, it's well, you're a former athlete, so the locker room.
Yeah, the banter, the fun.
The fire hall was the locker room 24/7.
It was always smack talk the whole time.
Yeah, it's like, you know, and the first liar didn't have a chance. Also, you know, that kind of deal. So it was, you know, pranks and stuff constantly. And but that was a great part of the job, you know, when for your downtime and stuff like that. So
you missed that.
That part I absolutely missed. Matter of fact, I can't remember who it was that told me this. It was somebody who were retired years before I had, and I'd asked him the same question. Hey, well, I'd asked him, hey, you miss anything? You miss anybody or whatever? Or you miss a job? And his analogy is perfect. He said, I miss the clowns, but I don't miss the circus.
I think that's every occupation.
You're right. So, yeah.
That's sometime in occupation. I can see sometimes an occupation being such a great impact on your life where you want to go back. And there's a lot of people that do things that help the job. Some people go back as, you know, volunteers for whatever.
Yeah, in Fort Worth, we actually have there's a organization called the Red Helmets.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of retired veterans from Fort Worth that they go to structure fires. And they have like a canteen kind of truck, you know, and when we're finally down and we get some break time and we can go to rehab and stuff like that, they bring you coffee or sports drink or
that's pretty cool.
Or you know, peanut butter and crackers. That was always big. Oh man, I'd love to have some of those right now. I'm starving, you know, kind of deal.
So before you came on my show as a guest, we had you had talked about working as a trainer for this training division fire academy. So tell me a little bit about it, what it's about, and what people maybe that are listening in, if they don't really know what they want to do with their life, why they can join somebody or join an organization like that.
So trainingdivision.com is our actual name.
You hear that? Trainingdivision.com.
Trainingdivision.com. And what we do, we have a little niche where you can most training academies, your traditional training academy lasts like a college semester or maybe even up to a year or whatever,
depending on,
and you got to commit to that whole entire time. Well, with us, you do all of your book work and all your testing from the book and stuff like that at your leisure online with us. And then once you've completed all that testing, then you give us a call and sign up for what we call our boot camp. And you come to us in Crowley for 2 weeks, and we house you, feed you. You're there 24/7 for 2 weeks straight. And we teach you all the skills and stuff that you need to know that the state of Texas
requires
you to know. And you got to pass those skills tests. And at the end, you're eligible to take the state exam. And when you leave, if you're past the state exam, then you're a certified firefighter according to the state of Texas.
Now, are you able to get selected by a fire department through the limited education you have through your training, or do you have to still go through a legit fire department training program?
Some departments like Fort Worth, they have their own training. They do their own training. They train their own. Some of the bigger departments in the area are like that. Some of the smaller departments in the area don't have that luxury, and they have to go out and find guys or gals that are already certified.
But doesn't the fire department realize that people get on the job training while they're doing the job anyway? Yeah, I get it. Give somebody the basics of the fire department firefighting, give them the basics of the police work, give them the basics of the military. Eventually they learn their job as they go.
Exactly. That's what we do.
The basics to give them the bare bones of the whole thing.
And we tell them, I'm teaching you how to do this right now. You're going to get hired on at a department somewhere else, and they're probably going to tell you that's not the right way. But this is how we do it, and that's okay. That's fine.
It makes sense,
right? But you're
having
you
experienced
firefighters,
knowledge, though. But you're getting experience. You're getting taught by somebody who's been in it for 35, 40 years.
And but our niche is that guy or gal who is not happy with what they're doing, whatever it might be right now. And, had thought about in the past wanting to be a firefighter. But they can't quit their job and take that year off and go to that traditional academy somewhere else.
So if my daughter wanted, my youngest wanted to be a firefighter, she can do the online schooling,
right?
And then she would call you guys up, and then I guess she would be put in the class. So in 2 weeks, she would have the necessary requirements to know the bare bones minimum of being a firefighter.
And then she would have the certification where she could apply anywhere in the state.
Wow.
We also we have quite a few international students.
Wow.
That come to us because we're an online academy.
So when they go back to their country, they have their experience.
A lot of our students are actually from Canada.
Oh, wow.
Our owner is from Canada. He's not the original owner, but he's from Canada also. And,
a lot of forest fires up there. Maybe something to do with that.
And but they, again, they're certified through the state of Texas, but the state offers what they call IFSAC seals, which stands for, gosh, if I can remember, International Fire Service Accreditation Congress.
Oh, wow.
So they apply for those.
I've never heard of that acronym.
They apply for those, seals, and they're transferable
to
all
other
over the
locations.
world.
Now that's amazing. Excuse me. That's cool. If I was a person that wanted to be a firefighter, and I came up to you and I was like, "Hey, sir, if you were to give me some advice about what I would need and require to be a firefighter, what would you tell me? Motivation, initiation, some kind of initiative, something. What would you tell me I needed in order to do this?
Discipline.
So it would, being a firefighter, it would show me discipline, or do I need discipline?
You would need it, especially going through our program.
Yeah.
Self-motivated. You're going to need to be self-motivated, because we're not going to be there when you sign up for our course online.
To hold your hand.
Exactly. While you're doing all the testing at home online, we're not there to hold your hand. This is on you.
Nice.
So we tend to, the vast majority of our students are quite self-motivated, and they're pretty successful once they leave.
Well, if you're interested, once again, go trainingdivision.com, and I guess you'll meet with somebody like Joe Robinson, who is my guest here on Vet for Vets. He's a veteran firefighter, and it's pretty interesting. So, what would you say is the fun part, the best part of that training academy? Is it getting to know everybody, like just getting to meet new people
Man,
all
it's
the time?
just seeing people from
Different
all
parts
walks
of
of life. It's crazy. I mean, I've met folks from all over the world.
Yeah, I've gone
Literally,
all over the world.
you know, from matter of fact, I think we have one student right now who he lives in Canada, but he's originally from Australia.
Yeah.
Just, I mean,
Amazing
we've
kid.
had some folks come in from Iceland,
Dang,
all over different
just to be
parts of
trained.
Europe, Africa. Yeah.
So once they're done, they just go back to wherever they're from and they use that experience they learn, I
Right.
guess, to learn more.
We
That's
used
amazing.
we did there for a while, get a lot of folks that work for the DOD, actually,
Wow.
that are firefighters for our temporary wherever bases
Wow.
in the Middle East area and Africa area. And so the thing is they're not required to have any kind of certification,
Man.
but they're also smart enough to know that once the U.S. pulls up
That's it.
and hits the road, then they're out of luck with
Hmm.
whatever. And they want to continue doing that. So they need to get certified so they can get hired and they come to us.
Man.
So, yeah.
Well, what would you say would be the happiest moment of your life? If you can think back right now, like think about all the 60 years you've been through, what would you say is the happiest moment in your life? A lot of people usually say their kids or their marriage, but what would you say?
I'd have to go with the kids also. I mean,
Kids.
that's, yeah.
I think my oldest one,
I
she
mean,
was first born,
kids,
my first child.
grandkids.
What would you say
Yeah.
is the saddest moment and the worst moment of your life?
Definitely kids in fires.
Just seeing them.
Yeah, just that
The heartbreak. Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
You know, just that's a tough one.
I can't
That's really
imagine having to
tough.
be so tough to where it's happening to these kids. Some of them probably get killed or died or burned alive. And you still have to put on a strong face, a tough face.
Yeah.
And I can't, even though I know you feel emotional about the incident, but everybody else around you is such a tough person that you have to act tough too. But I'm quite sure I know there's moments where you're just like, this is too much.
Yeah, it was, we're walking into people's homes. Like I said, a lot of our calls were the medical calls.
Yeah.
And walking into people's homes all the time. And 90% of the time, if, a bad thing, it's their worst moment.
Yeah.
If they got to call us, it's their worst
Yeah.
moment.
But it
Right.
can also be your worst moment
Right.
too by having to live that with them.
But seeing some kids that are in situations
Hmm.
and that you can see that they're not in good situations, that was
Can't
tough
imagine.
too. Yeah.
Well,
So-
if there was one moment that you can pick out and just kind of nitpick out of your life, what would be one moment you could change if you could? And most people like me would say the 2020 election, but if you could, what would you say would be a moment you wish you could change? Like if you can go back in time.
That's a tough one. I'm not sure. I've never even actually thought about that.
Yeah, these are usually questions I like to ask randomly
Right.
to people just to see what they would say.
Uh-huh.
I've had some good answers before.
Boy, I'm drawing a blank.
I got
here.
you stumped. Good. I did it.
Yeah.
So that's good. But Joe, with my guest, in case you haven't been listening, my guest is Joe Robinson. He's a Burlesonite. He was a Fort Worth Fire Department firefighter for 35 years. You think about it. There's people right now that have been in their job for 15 years and they're miserable. He did one of the most bravest jobs for 35 years.
I was never miserable.
Oh, well, I know exactly. Well, but he did that. Think about it. You're in your job for however many years you're miserable. He did a job for 35 years and not once did he ever think he was miserable because of it all came down to having some of the greatest people he's ever met working with him.
For sure.
He's got some of the bravest people he's ever met working with him. And Joe, thank you for serving us. I mean, you did fantastic. And I'm honored that you're here to be on my show.
I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to Vet for Vets. My name is Angelo Rocha. This is Joe Robinson, and thank you for listening. And until next time, we love you guys.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County. Joco Community Radio.